Hello, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in on a Saturday. Happy Saturday.
Yes.
My name is Reginald Titus Jr., Executive Director for Ground Over Matter Foundation. We are about representation in front of and behind the camera, and how we support that mission is by having educational workshops like we're doing today. By anytime we have like a film production, we want to make sure that college students and working adults that are interested in film productions can get access to our productions. Also, we have media services for like startups and nonprofits that necessarily may not be able to afford like high production value. They can use our services to do that. And also, we have some scholarships. So if you're interested in supporting Grind Over Matter Foundation, just go to grindovermatter.org and just click the donate button. Doesn't matter if it's $1 or if it's a million. We appreciate it nonetheless. And now we have a special guest, Dr. London Williams, man.
Great.
Welcome,
Hey,
man.
yeah, hey man, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for your time today. I'm gonna jump right. We're gonna jump right in. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into your bio.
Okay.
All right. Dr. London Williams is a multifaceted creative force wearing numerous hats in the realms of film and entertainment. In 2022 alone, London orchestrated budgets exceeding $25 million for various feature films and television series. He secured licensing deals with industry giants such as Viacom, BET, BET Plus, BET Her, Up, Faith, and Family TV and Maverick Entertainment. London's creative endeavors have found a home on Prime Video with two features and television series distributed to a global audience. A graduate from the Digital Film Academy of New York Conservatory program, London pairs his artistic acumen with a robust educational background, holding a doctorate in business administration and an MBA in sports and entertainment management. He seamlessly blends the worlds of creativity and business, and an esteemed member of the Director Guild of America and the Lone Star Emmy chapter. London Williams stands as the intersection of creativity, business acumen, and a commitment to the positive. Welcome to the show,
Okay.
man. Welcome to
Sounds good, man.
the show. Yes, sir,
Hey,
man. You've been busy.
man, I've been very busy. I remember when I first met you guys. It was a great experience then, and it's still a great experience now, man. So,
We
how
appreciate
many
that.
years have it been?
2000, I think officially like two. We met you on campus, so that was 2004 or 2005, somewhere
Yeah,
around
somewhere
there.
around there. Yep,
And then we started films 2009. So, man, we
that's
rocking and
amazing.
rolling.
That's right, right?
Man, so we're gonna jump right into this thing. So that's the thing about this show. We jump right into
Go ahead.
what is we here for. So, all right. So, as a producer, there's many definitions. So, what's the difference between a producer, a line producer, and UPM?
And the reality is, they're basically used interchangeably. Producers, they usually see things from beginning to end, from conception to development to financing, getting the film financed, all the way to, they're more business focused per se for the entire project to bring it from development, pre-production, post, production, and all the way to post-production. As a producer, you live with their project for 5 years after this thing has been filmed.
Hmm.
Um, that's been my experience. You pretty much live with a film once you start with it.
Hmm.
And as a line producers are usually hired by the producer once the budget is in place to make sure that you can do an accurate budget for it. Or sometimes they hire line producers to put a budget in place so they can go get money and raise money as well. So it can be used in that form or fashion. And usually the line producers focus on budgeting, sticking to the budget, but also the strategy behind the budget to make sure all the scheduling is done right behind that budget as well, so that you can stay on point. So, yeah.
Have you had to work as like line producer or UPM? Have you had to work have that hat on at the same time? And how does it work?
Yes, I have. I wrote a little diagram behind me so everybody can understand. Sometimes you're wearing multiple hats.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're a producer, line producer, and a UPM all at the same time, especially on smaller projects. I can't wear the UPM hat on smaller projects now, or unless they fall within the ramifications of the DGA, of course,
Hmm.
and they have to be a signatory for me to be a UPM on a project. But yes, I've had to wear all three hats at one time, but I don't recommend it uh, I have colleagues in the industry that always tell me, man, it's going to be brutal to do that. And you don't
Hmm.
realize what you're doing it because a lot of people that have been UPMs or working as UPM, a lot of people have done this work already. They just don't realize what the title is. I just want to
Hmm.
kind of bring light to the title because it's recognized with the DGA, especially within the AD department as well. So
Today, we're going to focus more on the UPM side of everything that you do.
yeah.
Can you kind of break that role down? And then how did you get started in the position of UPM?
UPM, I kind of worked my way up. You know, I worked my way up, same as a lot of people in the industry did, working as a PA all the way to production coordinating, then production supervising. And next thing you know, I was doing AD work on a lot of projects. And then I started working as a UPM on some non-union projects and then on some union projects. And sometimes you can get on those projects by being an incumbent on those projects as well. The
Hmm.
biggest thing to get into a union, you have to have so many hours to get into the union, and you have to have make sure your body of work represents that as well. So you have to always make sure you keep all your call sheets, make sure you keep as you're building your resume. And a lot
Hmm.
of people don't remember that or don't think about that, but every time you get a call sheet, make sure you file it. Just file it away, because at some point you need to show those hours and how much you've worked to build your way up to that as well. And then when you get ready to apply for those positions or in those unions, you have to have people to sign off for you as well. That is usually people within that field as well.
Hmm.
So they have to sign off for you.
What are some misconceptions about the UPM role?
I think some misconceptions could happen is that people think that UPMs don't have anything to do with the creative aspect of it,
Hmm.
but you still have to negotiate with the creatives sometimes. Uh, I call it being creative in a different type of way. You have to find creative ways to budget things or manage the budget per se that the line producers put uh, in front of you. But at the same time, you have to manage that budget and make sure every little piece of that budget is managed appropriately. Sometimes you can get to a point to where you have to make some harsh decisions. If something is getting ready to go over budget, you may have to cut something else out to make sure that that piece of whatever you want to deliver is on the screen instead, versus being pushed somewhere else into another budget category. Uh,
Hmm.
I always say the UPM major job is to make sure he's pretty much a conduit. He or she is pretty much a conduit between the office and the
Hmm.
set. You know, UPMs mostly live on set most of the time, but they are still managing everything from vendor management, crew management, all the way to helping people keeping morale up as well, so that you can kick things to the next level. Yeah.
What are some challenges that people that are interested in becoming a UPM, like what are some like common challenges that they're going to face for sure?
Well, realistically, some of the challenges of experience, you have to make sure that you understand experience and being vocal about that as well. Because just because the title exists don't necessarily mean that you could fit within that title if you're
Hmm.
not the type of person that can hold that title. And the reason I'm saying that is because you have to negotiate, man. You have to be a people person.
Hmm.
First off, you have to, because you're constantly vacillating between dealing with people, internal and external conflict. You know, people
Hmm.
externally, you're dealing with vendors, negotiating and building those relationships. Because I've worked on projects where I saw UPMs get vendors discounts based on the work that they've done with them in the past. And you're building a trust with
Hmm.
all the vendors on the external portion of it. But then also internally, you have to know how to negotiate with people on how to, when it comes to salaries, if you're dealing with mostly a bigger union show, there's
Hmm.
really not too much negotiation you can do
Right.
because they had those set salaries in place based on whichever union that they're in.
Hmm.
But at the same time, sometimes you got to negotiate other stuff.
Speaking of unions, do you think it's important to become part of like the DJ or unions? You know, there's unions for everything, right? So, do you think it's important, or what's your viewpoint on that with the unions?
Yeah, I think definitely the unions are important, but at the same time, the unions are not for everybody, because
Hmm.
I know people in this industry that are not in the union that are doing great work. It's just union is just not a fit for them.
Hmm.
Uh, Union on the behalf for my sake has actually been a great opportunity for me to be in the union But not only that, is for educational purposes as well, and also have access to somebody that's going to be speaking on your behalf also. So, like saying, it really depends on what you're trying to get out of it as well, because as much as you get, you got to give something as well, you know?
Absolutely. What are from pre-production, production, post-production? What's the day-to-day activities of UPM, and are you there for every aspect of the production?
Yeah, you're pretty much, yeah, once you're hired on as a UPM, you're there for the entire thing, from pre-production, uh, actually doing logistics. You're doing a lot of logistics, dealing with vendors, onboarding people along with the line producer. You can be
Hmm.
onboarding people as well, and also you're managing those people, because sometimes you may think you have an entire crew in place, but believe it or not, people find other jobs that are paying more, and
Mm,
they'll let you know. I always say my motto in this business: if you find another job, just replace yourself. Just
okay.
send me somebody else.
It's a courtesy.
Yeah, it's a courtesy. Just send me somebody else. Somebody of
Right.
your caliber on top of that.
Hmm.
But I think when the strike was over, a lot of people went to work right away, but there are a lot of people that were still not working. So you
Hmm.
have situations to where people find other opportunities. So you just have to make sure that you balance that as well as you're negotiating with them and bringing them on. So
During the strike, that's an interesting. How were people finding work during? Because at the end of the day, people still got to pay their bills and things like that. So how were people like kind of? What did you see out there when strikes were going on? How did people make a living during that time?
most people that I knew that were um, UPMs in the DGA, a lot of people made their livings by literally like living off their savings.
Hmm.
And to be real with you, some people still had shows going because they had contracts with SAG that were allowed them to continue, and those SAG were signatories as well with the DGA. So it was still people able to work during the strike. It was just
Hmm.
pretty much on smaller projects or small independent projects that had contracts already going or had negotiated stuff with SAG already. So I saw that happen as well.
Wow. What do you think? What's the landscape right now in the industry for UPMs?
I think the landscape right now in the industry is they're very much needed. Um, and I could just basically say from what I've seen in this industry is it's just growing. The opportunities are growing out there because there's much more and more content being made, more and more people are becoming producers, film producers. And as you get to that level and as you start doing signatory projects, believe it or not, a lot of people didn't even know UPM existed. They just thought
Hmm.
about the first AD and the second AD, but once they
Right.
became signatory, they realized they needed a UPM to manage that whole process, because your first AD is on set pushing that, um, make sure everything stays on schedule. They don't have time to be dealing with vendors and negotiating contracts. They don't have time for all that. Your second AD, they're doing their thing as well.
Hmm.
So that's why you needed a UPM, especially at the bigger level projects, to make sure that they can manage that process seamlessly and to make everybody else's job just much easier.
Hmm.
It's a collaborative environment.
How do you analyze like a shooting schedule that's coming from a first AD, and then how do you tell them if that schedule is feasible or not?
Well, my first thing is I'm a writer as well, so I'm going to break down the script no matter what. I'm breaking down the script from page counts, locations. I'm looking at all the locations. I'm thinking about logistics all the way through it, and
Right.
I'm also trying to see if how many location moves we have to have. Believe it or not, that's why a lot of studios like horror films. There's only one house you got to shoot at. You don't have to move.
Right.
Or you shoot on studio set, you don't have to
Hmm.
move. You got that one location.
Right.
But as a UPM, I'm looking at how many moves do we have to do in a day. At one point, I worked on a production. We only had like two moves a day. Then I worked on a production. We had four moves, and I was like, oh my god. It's those type of moments where it just you get shocked every now and then. But if you have a great team, especially a great transportation team, that transportation team is going to make those moves so seamless because
Hmm.
they're moving things as you're shooting, and you don't
Hmm.
realize the stuff is being moved, but that falls on a great locations person, transportation coordinators. They have all that stuff lock, stock, and barrel, man, to make sure that stuff is happening seamlessly. And also, man, as a UPM, we're dealing with permits. Uh,
Hmm.
how much stuff can we access? What do we have access to? Um, well, we have daylight availability,
Right.
stuff like
Right.
that.
What have a lot of people don't realize that when a production is made, that it's an actual company. Like it's like almost like a startup. So
Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
and you it says company move. Can you kind of break down what that means and why what you're saying is important as far as like why it's important, like 2 moves or 4 moves or no moves at all, and what does that actually entail when you're doing that?
Um,
Could
I
you go
say
into
it
overtime? I didn't mean to cut you off, but like does that mean you might possibly go into overtime?
it,
Like
it,
what?
you could definitely go into overtime with all the company moves.
Hmm.
Because once you go into overtime, especially with a full unionized production, sometimes you're going to pay in time and a half on a lot of. You can pay time and a half after 8 hours anyway.
Yeah.
But sometimes you go with 15 to 16 hours. Sometimes you're paying people another half day of salary. Depends on what union they're a part of. Depends on what those contracts. So it can happen.
In dealing with like indie productions, certain
Mhm.
positions are looked over for budgetary reason. With your experience, what are some of the most commonly overlooked roles, and what are some roles indie producers should actually reconsider?
I always say that's a trick question. I say some of the most overlooked roles until you don't realize you need it until you need it
Yeah.
is having a DIT on set.
Hmm.
Um, Somebody that's capturing all your footage and organizing all your footage as you're shooting, and you don't have to worry about stopping because sometimes your second AC. Sometimes people try to use the second AC to do both jobs.
Yeah.
Once he's slate, he run over there to the computer, downloading it now. You know, you can do that in the independent world if it's a small set, but once you get the bigger sets, man, you want to make sure you have a great DIT. That's one of the most overlooked roles, but the most rewarding role if you
Mhm.
actually get that job because I've seen those DOTs make magic happen on set, just
Mhm.
by allowing the directors and all the creatives and even the executives, allowing them to review footage. They may see a take or see something that they missed, and oh, we got to redo that because you have the footage in real time. The
Mhm.
dailies getting done in real time. So I think that's one of the most overlooked jobs on set.
This through our experience, like our first film that we had when we were working on a documentary, we actually lost some footage. Thank
Wow.
God we was able to recover it, but like that's because we're shooting, we're producing, we're doing all this, and some stuff just kind of falls kind of in the cracks. And I had no idea about the DIT position. So
Yeah. And you have so many different softwares that you can use for DIT to actually give you reports.
mhm.
On top of that you have that footage there. And if you see that report pop out and it don't have that frame, you're like, oh my God, we got to reshoot that or something's missing. Yeah,
Mhm.
we've caught stuff like that as well on different productions. Because I'm the type of producer or that I live in the DIT tent. I'm constantly looking at footage to make sure stuff is looking right.
Have you had any situations like from your previous productions where because the footage valuable where kind of get into argument footage the footage appears just because of human nature, are there like any like strange stories about like footage disappearing or you know something happening to the footage besides just technical
Um,
stuff?
I've seen that happen before. It happened on one of my productions as well. Some audio mysteriously came missing. So certain things you got to watch out. I always grab everything at the end of the night or throughout the day. Check
Hmm.
footage and check audio throughout the day. There's going to be a lot of time constraints and constraints in place so that you can't do as much of that. But at the same time, if you got that one location that you have and you can't go back to it, you better be
Hmm.
reviewing as much as you can to make sure you have everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What are some tips for housing, like how cutting housing costs? What are some tips there for some of the
Oh yeah, yeah. I would say cutting housing costs. Sometimes you can negotiate with travel planners because they can get you bulk better rates when it comes to housing. Um, if you try to go in there and do it yourself, I come from the hospitality industry. I worked on the hotel side as well. So
hmm
by me working on the hotel side, I know to negotiate with the event planners at the hotel or the resort, whichever place you're going to. They can get you a better group rate. So that's you can pretty much get 10 to 20% off on your stuff. But at the same time, check with your film commissions beforehand because a lot of stuff you can get tax rebates or there are a lot of tax incentives tied to the hotels that you book. So yeah, so saving on housing, you can negotiate ahead of time. Um, One thing I've always learned in this business is that everybody deserves their own room,
Mm-hmm.
unless they don't mind sharing with each other. That's a way to save. If people have worked together, they can share a room sometimes. But me personally, I'd rather have my own room.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can save on housing all type of ways, man. Negotiate with the just event planners, the hotel direct, and try to get group rates. Also, you can do Airbnbs for the area.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably get Airbnbs at a better rate sometimes. If you can get a big 6-bedroom home in some communities, you can probably house a lot of people there at the same time. We did that on one film. We were literally shooting in the desert, and there was a big mansion. This place had probably about 8 bedrooms, and each bedroom had its own entrance to it, so
Mm-hmm.
it felt like it was in a hotel. So that worked for us. So.
What about the trailers? Like, is that like a big deal? I don't know
Oh
what I
yeah.
was listening to, like as far as like actors and stuff, and like how big the trailer is. What what are some things there?
Yeah, I think trailers is mostly going to be in their contracts as well, because sometimes when you're dealing with SAG per se, you have MFN, which is most favored nations. If you get one actor a trailer, you got to get all the actors a trailer. It can fall into that category as well, because trust me, they're looking at each other's trailers to see
Yeah,
who has
yeah,
the biggest trailer.
yeah.
So if you
Wow.
got if you got a three hole trailer or a one hole, they're gonna be like, oh, that trailer's bigger than mine. So
Wow.
I've seen that happen as well. So you got to also keep that in mind, because that can take your budget up. That's why it's always good to have a good transportation guy, because he's going to be able to find the best trailers for you at a better discount rate, because he's a person that's doing bulk buying. So if you can
Mhm.
get behind a good transpo guy or find a good transpo guy, they're going to help you get the best trailer rates out there, because they deal with the same vendors all the time. So it's like they're a repeat customer. Um, those trailers are not cheap.
Mm. Is yours you blinking out a little bit? Okay, I'm sorry. It was like a little glitch there or something.
Yeah, I thought as well.
Okay. Scenario: $1,000 budget, full feature. Who must be hired and how many days are you shooting?
Oh, how much is the budget?
$100,000.
Oh, $100,000. Oh man, that's a rough one, man. Like I told you, that's probably my salary. No, I'm just playing. I'm playing with you. I'm playing. Nah, I would say, man, I'm gonna do this for the indie people. Okay,
Okay,
hundred
yeah, it's
thousand
for the
dollars.
indies.
You better have you a lot of great friends that you've been shooting with for a long time, that y'all all believe in each other, and y'all all getting points on that movie. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, you can pull it off if you have friends that you work with for a long time, where everybody believe in the project.
Hmm.
I've seen people pull off stuff for less. Um, I've seen actors get together and pull off projects for that. And I've seen SAG projects done for of that amount.
Hmm.
So it really depends. You just got to believe in the project at the end of the day.
Okay. So
So I can't
favors.
really tell you who to hire. The person you need to hire is the cinematographer. You know what I mean? You need a camera.
Yes.
And director. Sometimes the cinematographer or the DP is the director.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you can save money that way. There's so many different ways to save money when it comes to shooting films at that rate. So
I remember we was in Georgia, and it was an indie, like ultra low indie, and they was
mm,
like, we shot it in 10 days for 60,000. But it was like
wow.
everybody was hooking each other up though, kind of like on the back end, like you were talking about. So
Yeah,
that's
you're right. Yeah, I've seen it, man. I'm talking about people negotiate points on the back end. Everybody's an EP on the project. These
hmm.
things can be done, man. You just have to have people that are passionate about the projects that they want to get behind. And believe it or not, these distributors nowadays, that's what they're looking for. They want somebody that can shoot under a certain amount. And because you going to negotiate with them, trust me, those checkbooks are not as big as they used to be.
Man. Um,
They were like, can I give you that? I'm like, nah. I'm not trying to break even. Don't do that to
no.
me.
Uh-uh.
Mm.
We have a couple of comments here. We
Uh-oh.
have, and even though we're talking about UPM, Jaime Maldonado, he said, "What's the hardest part about being a producer?
I would say the hardest part about being a producer is making sure everybody is happy. That's the hardest part about being a producer, because as a producer, everybody's not going to be happy. I hate to
Hmm.
tell you that. You just have to make sure that everybody's understanding their roles and make sure they're getting paid, and at the same time, just making sure the morale is up.
Hmm.
At some point, people on your project are going to be upset. You don't know what that's going to be. It could be anything, um, but you just got to make sure everybody's comfortable enough and have the resources they need to shoot the film at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
The film is wrapped. How do you make sure all the equipment is accounted for? And what are some like sneaky things people have tried to pull in the past?
Oh yeah, yeah. Equipment. I love this part because I keep lists. Every
Hmm.
time I get something, I'm keeping lists. When you're renting the equipment, make sure you have an equipment checkout list, and make sure you're looking at that list, going through it with the person that's renting the equipment out to you. Not only are you checking that equipment out, you need to test that equipment to make sure it's working before you leave that rental house, because
Hmm.
sometimes they may rent you some bad equipment, and not maliciously, but they may not know the equipment was bad from the last person that turned it in, because you never know. There may have been a lapse into where someone didn't check the equipment that was checked in, but they check it out to you, and you got the bad equipment from the last production that just checked it in. So
Hmm.
it's not malicious at all. But I've seen that happen to where you check some equipment. I've checked out a camera one time, and somebody's footage of their SD card was still in the camera.
Whoa.
Yes, because they
Ooh.
forgot to take the SD card out. And when I looked at it, I recognized the people who it was, and I
Yeah.
gave them a call. I have your footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's.
things like that can happen, because so
Hmm.
if that footage is sitting there, somebody didn't check that out. But some things I've seen rental houses do, and you don't know if it's malicious or not. Sometimes you may rent some equipment, it may get destroyed, or it may get destroyed, um, being taken back to the place by the people that you've rented equipment through. You may pile all the stuff in the truck, but
Hmm.
as it's going back to the rental house, it may get damaged some way in the back of a truck. So
Yeah.
I've seen that happen. Even though you checked it out at your production office, once it get back to the equipment house, you don't know what happened in between that time. But I've seen that happen to where they want to do an L&D on you. But at the same time, you have to have good insurance in place with an insurance provider that you've built a relationship with, because most likely, if you're working on bigger projects, you will have a lot of L&D. If try not to. The best thing is try not to have L&D.
Hmm.
The biggest L&D, believe it or not, is walkie talkies.
Really?
Oh yeah, people
Ha-
not turning in walkie talkies, and the surveillance is mics. Is like people forget. They leave it
Yeah.
in cars. They leave it on the side of the seat.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it may be stuffed in their luggage, or it may be in their
Hmm.
jacket or clothes they wore the night before. That's one of the biggest L&Ds out there that people don't like to talk about, but it's there. That's why you have to have a good key walkie person that's checking in walkies and checking them out.
Would that be P? Is that a PA person, or who would be the person?
Yeah, it's usually a key set PA, somebody like that, or they have a walkie PAs. It depends on at what level of production you're at. You can have a good base camp PA that's in charge for that, or usually they have a walkie PA that's all they're dealing with, just checking in walkies. Um,
Wow, that's actually
mhm,
that's interesting. I had no idea.
yeah,
Um, UPMs, I'm assuming have to say no a lot. So
yeah.
what's what's the most difficult thing you had to deny someone on a production, and how do you
The
like
most
build it up?
yeah, the most difficult thing that you have to deny somebody is a piece of equipment that they need to do their jobs.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to make a difficult decision, because me, as I'm a creative as well, so I'm looking at it like I want to make sure that whatever I put out or I'm working on has the look that we need.
Hmm.
Um, you may have a DP say, "Hey, man, I really want these anamorphic lenses," but you realize these lenses that you're getting is going to be $20,000 to rent them for the entire time of the shoot.
Hmm.
Especially if you want a certain brand or a look, or the camera that they want to use. Sometimes you have to go down a grade in camera just to try to meet budget. Um, stuff like that. Or you can use somebody that has a pre-existing camera, but you don't know what quirks it may have. It may be something that they've used so much that it's about to break in the middle of production. So you
Hmm.
end up having to go rent another one anyway. So
Golly.
yeah, so it's different things like that that can happen.
What are some of the common things you have to say no about? Because even though that, I can understand from a cinematographer standpoint, they want that anamorphic look and it looks
Hmm.
very artistic. But what are some of the common things that are kind of more like frivolous and you're like, no, 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 that you kind of say no to a lot?
Uh, Man, I hate to say this, overtime. Sometimes you get in a situation to where you have to approve a lot of overtime because you may be running behind, and if you want to get that look versus omitting that scene,
Hmm.
you may have to go into overtime. So that's one of the things that I see you saying a lot no to a lot is that, hey guys, we can't do it, we can't afford it, or then we have to omit it, and then that comes down to a whole director issue, to
Hmm.
a cinematographer's issue, to everybody. Everybody's mad at that point.
Wow.
So, mhm.
Um, what's the best money ever spent, and should it be baked into most production budget? I'm assuming that it is, but what's the best money ever spent?
There's two things that I always think about. Make sure it lands on the screen
Mm-hmm.
to where you have the great look that you want, because if they don't look good or sound good, nobody's going to watch it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Or also PR behind your project. That's some of the best money ever spent. Having a good publicist in place. And I hate to say this, but crafty.
Amen. Amen to that.
You got to keep the craft in the coffee. If you don't have coffee on set, people will walk.
That's true. That's true.
Hmm. Yeah,
Can't be eating pizza every time.
but yeah, but on top of that, man, just hiring the right people. I would say the best money ever spent is hiring the right people.
Okay.
Hmm.
What from a producing standpoint and like from a business standpoint, what's like the most lucrative business model that you're seeing right now? Is it licensing? Is it working for a fee? Is it selling the rights to a distributor? What do you think is like the best business model right now?
I think realistically, producers have to have something. I would say all three of them going at the same time,
Hmm.
because you may not license something one time. You may have to do a project for a fee.
Hmm.
Uh, you may have to get to a point where you become the person that's hireable, or besides, if you're not hiring, you better be hireable, as they say.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say when it comes to distribution, man, owning your project.
Hmm.
That way you can keep licensing out later.
Right.
Or if you're going to co-produce, and make sure that you have an agreement in place to where you have say so over the creative and the marketing aspect of it, because at the end of the day, I have a degree in marketing as well, man. I know marketing is like the number one thing that's going to push your film to the next level. If you have no control of the project, or if the distribution or network is not putting marketing dollars behind your project, you
Mm.
can hang it up. It's just going to be a piece of content on their website waiting to get hit every now and then.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Um, Earlier we had talked about UPM from a pre-production, production, post-production. During post-production, what's the UPM doing during post-production?
During post production, make sure you have a good post production supervisor in place.
Hmm.
Um, Usually UPM, sometimes they roll off of the project after that, because um, some projects the UPM may stay on, or may be the line producer that follows up with the production supervisor. And that production supervisor is usually working directly with the line producer or the producers at that point.
Hmm.
Because most UPMs, they're hired, they oversee post production sometimes, but sometimes you roll off a project. You may, as a UPM, you may only have like 2 weeks of rap or 1 week of rap.
Hmm.
And then it goes over to a post production supervisor dealing with a line producer that may have 2 or 3 weeks of rap, or may just be dealing with directly with the producer at that point. It really depends on what budget level that you're at, that
Okay.
I've seen.
What budget level do you think a UPM is staying on? What do you see there?
I would say, like I say, you can hire UPM at any level, as
Hmm.
long as you become a signatory of the DGA. But them, I see them lasting more at the, I would say, 1 million or 2 million and up level,
Hmm.
to where you have that tenacity to stay on board and really make an impact. Yeah, but if you go to dga.org, you'll see pretty much everything on there about like the side letters and the rate cards and everything, and you can do
Hmm.
projects $500,000 or less. So
Hmm.
it really depends.
When you talk about becoming a signatory, just for the people that don't understand, what does that mean? And say somebody they have some money, however they raise their money and they're ready to start their production. What does
Mhm.
that mean by becoming a signatory and being able to work with these different vendors?
Yeah, yeah. I would say different unions they have different rules and regulations when you become a signatory with them. Basically, what that means is that you're signing a contract stating that you will abide by their rules throughout the process. You will abide by their budgetary constraints. You will abide by their union, basically their union agreements. All the unions
Mhm.
have agreements in place, and you have to read those agreements. I know the DGA agreement right now is 648 pages, I believe. It's like a book.
Yeah. My
So you
God.
got to read that book.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I've seen this happen. A lot of people they just go straight to the rate card. You can go to the rate card all day, but if you don't understand the ramifications of what you're getting into, you better read it all. On top of
Hmm.
that, and also on top of that, you can. One thing I like about the DGA, we get a lot of education. We got a lot of online education, and then also face-to-face opportunities. I had one this morning. Uh, with them. It was basically about doing business in New Jersey, that type of
Hmm.
situation. And we do these workshops. Sometimes they're face to face, sometimes they're on Zoom. So yeah.
How would somebody that's just getting started and they're
Mhm.
kind of this is their first time being a signatory? What are some things they might be surprised? They might be like, say they miss, they didn't read that some of those lines in their contract, and so maybe they missed a date or they missed something. Uh, how do the unions kind of hold them to the fire as far as making sure that things are lined out and straightened up?
Yeah, it could be anything to where if you go over budget, you can get there are certain things in place that can kick things to the next level if you go over budget. There are also situations to where if you miss paying people on a certain timeline, you can get fined for that. There's so many different things that the union can do or um, to make sure that the person that they represent is getting taken care of. So you
Hmm.
just want to make sure that you abide by all the rules. And a lot of stuff is not intentional. You just sometimes you may have missed one sentence, um, and this person had worked 6 days straight, and now they're or working on the holidays, getting paid double time.
Hmm.
Um, somebody say, "We shooting a Christmas film on Christmas." Oh, that's gonna be the
Yeah.
most expensive film ever because you're shooting on Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah. So you got to think about that, especially when you're shooting around the holidays. I've shot
Hmm.
films that fell around the holidays,
Hmm.
but usually the productions we try to schedule around those holidays. It may be running up on most of the time is July the 4th. 4th of July is the biggest holiday because a lot of people film in the summertime.
Hmm.
So if you're filming in the summertime, then July the 4th, always remember that. That is a holiday.
Yeah.
You know, we have other holidays around that time as well in the summer. So you got to be cognizant of that.
So the Christmas time, is it expensive because all the rates go up because nobody really wants to be on a production? Is that what happens? Or
I think that has something to do with it.
hmm.
It's just an incentive for people to like
Right.
if you want to miss time with family, you want to be incentivized for that. I think that's really why it's in place. If you trust me, at some point in your life, you're gonna be like, hey, I don't have family to go home to on Christmas. I'm willing to work,
Yeah. Yeah.
or any other holiday. If you don't celebrate certain holidays, you don't mind working.
Yeah. Absolutely. From a skill set standpoint, what are some essential skill sets that someone interested in becoming a UPM, what's required?
Man, I would start by negotiating, being able to negotiate deals, being able to be a people person and talking to people, um, having basically awareness that you're dealing with real human beings that either want to get paid or want to make sure their crew is taken care of. So the skill set to me is understanding how to budget. First of all, I use a lot of different softwares to help me budget and schedule stuff appropriately. There are so many other softwares that are out now as well that we got to be cognizant of. Um, Being able to manage stuff, be an organized person.
Hmm.
Um, Man, I can go on and on and on. Man,
Yeah.
being able to communicate effectively,
Yeah.
uh, picking some type of tools that are currently in place, even if it's like low budget, to just use a group text for
Hmm.
everybody to let people know what's going on. It could be
Mm-hmm.
something as simple as that, but you got to communicate with people. But document file management is the biggest thing. Accounting, having access to the right accounting stuff that you can deal with, understanding budgets. I'd always say budgets, understanding legal,
Mm-hmm.
because at some point you're going to be able to read that contract that's in front of you, especially all these union agreements. I would tell every UPM line producer to study all the union agreements they can to make sure that they know what they're getting into, but also that they can deal effectively with them. So.
Mm-hmm. What what are some you had mentioned software? Do UPMs use a certain software that's different than say like a line producer, or are they kind of one and the same?
It depends.
Hmm.
I don't really want to promote any softwares yet,
Okay, got you.
but I use Movie Magic,
Yeah.
and I've used Studio Binder as well. But there's
Hmm.
so many other softwares out there that you use. As a line producer, I've used media services. I've used Green Slate. I've used entertainment partners.
Hmm.
So you basically beholden until to the productions that hire you on which softwares that you're going to be using, because they may have a closed system to where you have to be forced to use their softwares.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what happens then.
Have you had to before you like got into like using software? Did you have to like create these like through
Oh yeah,
Excel? Yeah.
man, I did. I used to create my own budget sheets in Excel,
Uh huh.
because before I got into the film industry, I was in the music industry, from tour management, putting tours together. So I already had like a lot of. I know how to do formulas in Excel. That's my thing. I love Excel. That's just what I do.
Hmm.
But I was also able to figure out how to make it apply to the film industry, because you have to do cash flow analysis, cost reports. You have to do stuff to get investors interested in your project, because if an investor if you're a producer and an investor wants to invest in your project, the first thing I'm going to deal with is a line producer, somebody that can put together a proper budget for me so I can pitch to an investor to show them what their return is going to look like. But also, as a UPM and a line producer, you also have to be aware of the state's incentive programs, because each state incentive program is different.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not just you know, one golden compass, as they say. So everybody's different, man, and the time frames you're gonna get their money back. They may
Hmm.
say, "Oh no, this counts towards this," but out of state people don't count. But some states, out of state people do count towards the tax incentive. So it really depends on which state that you're dealing with. So that's what you got to think about.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Um, since you also do line producing as well, I know we're talking about UPM, but from a line producing, what's the main difference between like the line producer, UPM when you're in that role as line producer? What does that
Mhm.
job look like in comparison?
Well, like I said, as a line producer, I'm focusing on budget and making sure I'm thinking about strategy of the entire project. If
Hmm.
I'm putting a budget together for this project, I'm thinking about the strategy from pre-production all the way throughout
Hmm.
the end of the thing. Usually, as a UPM, I'm only thinking about pre-production and production, because literally a lot of UPMs only have sometimes 2 to 3 weeks of wrap time, and then they're off the project.
Yeah.
But as a line producer, I'm thinking about the whole thing to put it together for the producers, to make sure that they have a conducive package to make sure that they can um, to make sure that UPM can basically manage that budget throughout.
Hmm.
So that's basically what I'm looking at as a line producer. So
And from a line producer standpoint, you're the one that people are going to, and you have to write the checks for everything, right?
oh yeah, you cutting checks daily. Sometimes you cutting checks, you be like, whoa, you got paid more than me. And it's funny. You be like, whoa, I need your job.
Right.
It's just funny, man. I love this industry so much, because it's amazing the things that you see in this business, man. Because um, just like I said, sometimes people that you never would have thought would be working in a position would have
Hmm.
that position. I always say treat everybody nice, because you never know who you're going to be reporting to tomorrow.
That is funny. Because of production, it can switch like that, right? You're reporting to
Man,
somebody, and then now you're getting
man,
promoted.
yeah. You just got promoted. Sometimes people get promoted midway through production. Sometimes, and
Wow.
sometimes you get demoted. And you got to sit in that corner
Yeah.
and decide on whether or not you're gonna take that lower check until the show is over, or just
Right.
walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I've seen those demotions happen. I've seen those promotions happen. It's so rewarding to see those people get promoted because they're working hard, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you know right off the back, man, this person may not be budgeted for that, but we need to find another way to reward them. You know,
Hmm.
give them some coupons
Something.
to something or some gift cards. But man,
um.
but as a line producer, I'm usually dealing with the day-to-day management of the production, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also people that are in talk to the, if y'all are in the chat, if y'all have some questions, we have a few, we still have about 15 minutes. So if y'all have
Mhm.
any questions that y'all would like to ask Dr. London, go ahead and drop those, especially if you're on YouTube, drop them in the comment section there because I can see them on this side.
Yeah.
What so I can kind of go through your projects because I got some key arts here for from the
Oh
project you're
yeah.
working on. Do you want to touch on them as I kind of flip through some of the projects you've been
Yeah,
working on?
yeah. You can flip on them. I can kind of give you a little brief. Oh yeah,
Okay.
Bid for Love. Yeah, Bid for Love. Actually, we licensed that. It's a BET original movie. We actually have a part two getting ready to come out as well. We did some great numbers with that movie. On top of that, a great cast, great crew. A lot of the crew we brought back for part two. You know, because it was based on their availabilities as well. So
Hmm.
I would just tell everybody just be on the lookout for Bid for Love 2 or whatever we decide to call it, as they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, but that's actually Bid for Love, the original, that's actually still streaming right now to this day.
Rock and roll. And then well, wait, I'm going back to that one. What was your role on this
Oh
project?
man, I was the producer, line producer, and UPM on that project. No, I wasn't a UPM on this project right here.
Uh-huh.
No, I was just a producer and a line producer on that one.
Okay. Okay.
I was a
Uh,
UPM on part two.
okay. Got it.
Yeah.
12.
12, I was a UPM producer and line producer. 12 is actually all over the place right now. It actually just got on Tubi, I think last 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
But it's pretty much all over the place. We got it as, I know it's on Prime, should be on Prime right now. Definitely Tubi. It's on Comcast in some of the local markets. Also, and Fandango.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on their Voodoo channel. It's on their Voodoo channel. So it was first on there. So that's out streaming now. Great film. Yes.
Who's distributing that one?
Excuse me.
Who's distributing that film?
Oh, we're licensing that one out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, all those platforms that we currently license it to all those. So it's been distributed pretty much on all those platforms right now. That was written by Arthur Muhammad. He was a producer on it as well, and also Wesley Jones. He was our EP on that project.
That's
So.
cool. All right. Crossbow.
Crossbow, yeah, this is a Peter Pham. Patty B. Hall, she's the executive producer on this project. We actually did a proof of concept on this one. This one we will be filming this one starting next year, in spring of next year. Yeah, Operation Crossbow. People can check that out. We have a great proof of concept trailer out right now. It's going bananas, as we call it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Bornell. I was a UPM on that. It's so funny because I've worked with Sam Hicks, and Sam actually owns an equipment company now, which is Sam. We call him Sam Shot
Yeah. Yeah.
It. Yeah, so I actually UPM on Bornell. So I worked with that with Sam. He put together that whole thing. And one thing I liked about Sam is that he believed in himself, so he basically funded that project himself. And we filmed that in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And you may recognize some of these characters. Stephen
Yeah.
Crowfield.
Mm-hmm.
I actually brought him back for Bid for Love too.
And
Chef Eddie G, Locavore. Yeah, Locavore. I cut my teeth on the food market with that one.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people in Dallas I brought onto that project. We did a lot of episodes for that. We traveled the world doing that. That was a very rewarding experience. Chef Eddie G. He's actually a resident chef now in Montauk. He does resident chef there. He's done stuff with the Food Network. A lot of great things came out of that production right there. And
That's
that
what,
actually we streamed out on Prime, I believe.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
that one was good. We got to eat good on that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Good
We all
food.
ate good. We gained weight on that one.
Yes. Uh, yeah.
Of course, Natural the movie. You can't leave that one out. that
Right.
that one right there. We call Natural the movie just an amazing experience. Being able to talk about hair and period, man, and women of color and the things they had to go through with that. And they're actually one of you guys' productions cut my teeth on that right out of film school. Yeah.
And you can definitely say that, Doc, you made sure all our paperwork was straight, and
Yep.
you made sure that we had our business hats on
Oh
when it
yeah.
came to
Yeah.
that film. Learned a lot. It's nothing like
Man.
experience.
And I would say the reason that was so rewarding is the fact that all came full circle because when I met you guys in Northwood University, I was able to contribute to your projects as well. Because I don't know if you remember, I actually came on your film set when one of the films that you were working on one time. Uh, I don't remember which one it was, but the Casey was in it.
Oh, that was it was either It's Complicated or it would have been or what? Yeah, I think it was It's Complicated because Casey wasn't on our very first one, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was probably it's complicated then.
Hmm.
Yes. So yeah, I came on that film set, and I was kind of inspired at that point. Even though I think I was teaching at the university at that time or transitioning into that.
Hmm.
Um, but I saw an opportunity to say, hey, this is something I want to do as well. And I decided to take that leap and go ahead and do it. Move to New York and do the whole film thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, enjoyed it.
So that so a lot of us, I think, with when it comes like to film production, there's that moment when it's like, okay, I got to make a decision. Was going to New York and kind of making that pivot because you was in the corporate world, you were teaching, you were doing a lot of things, and to go to film, that was like a huge step. What what made you kind of like hit that right, and go like, I'm gonna go after my passion.
Yeah, I think what made me do that, what made me comfortably do that is the fact that I was able to save up money before I did that.
Hmm.
Teaching in the university was very rewarding, but I felt like I still had more to give, and I still want to go back and teach one day. But I want to be more of a speaker, come in and just speak and then leave.
And then drop the mic.
Yeah, there you go, and then come back. I come back and just speak at colleges, that type of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but being locked into a curriculum, love it because you're especially a subject matter expert on whatever you're teaching. But what made me pivot was like, hey, I want to just take this opportunity to follow my passion. So I decided to go into a program that was suitable for me as a
Hmm.
working adult. I actually taught at Baruch College while I was going through film school at the same time.
Yeah.
But I just didn't let my students know what I was doing because, it was a kind of a conflict at that
Yeah.
point. So I just had to
Right.
make sure that I just kept both of those worlds separate. So I was teaching at Baruch College at the time. I was teaching strategy up there. Um, I was learning more about, as they say, more for the students because Baruch is a business school, more for college students as well. So
Hmm.
had a real good time doing that. And then at the Digital Film Academy, man, met a lot of great cohorts, as we call them.
Hmm.
And they ended up actually producing a lot of their films with the people that was in my class because I was the daddy in the room. I was the oldest guy in the room. I think I was 40 at the
Yeah. Yeah.
time. Everybody else was 19. They thought I was a teacher. I was like, nope, I'm the student. But then I just put my business hat on and I realized a lot of them just needed somebody to help them produce their projects.
Hmm.
And then the good thing about that is that some of the people, man, some of the students had budgets that are way exceeding people in this market today on
Hmm.
independent level, believe it or not. Um,
Do you think when you noticed that and how you were helping those students, do you think that's when you was like, okay, I'm gonna kind of lean into this line producer UPM role?
yeah, yeah, I saw myself falling more into that category because from my experience as being a business person first to event planning, understanding logistics, understanding touring. It was all event planning and logistics. Only thing I had to do was make that apply to the film industry based on their terms. And
Mhm.
once I learned the terminology of the film industry and how each one of these um, job titles applied to what I did in the past, I just applied that to it, but then had to learn other things to sharpen my skills. So,
Mhm. It seems like
because
this. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
It seems like this role is somebody that's business oriented and
Mhm.
has a passion for a business. It's like this seems to be like the perfect role because things are changing all the time too. So
Yes.
it's not getting monotonous.
Yeah, definitely. I love the role, man. I say it's day to day office management, and believe it or not, sometimes I don't even step foot on set. Sometimes in my line producer role, because they need me in the office mostly to cut checks and make sure vendors are happy.
Hmm.
My UPM role is more my set role when I'm in that role.
Hmm.
Um, so it really depends. I may vacillate which way. Like okay, I'm doing this now, I'm doing that, but I love every aspect of it from what I'm able to do from budget creation to management, scheduling.
Right.
It's funny. Logistics and coordination is like in my blood because I used to move bands around the world, on
Hmm.
tours.
Hmm.
Understanding that, and you're trying to move a lot of, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
rock bands. I don't care
Yeah.
what they are. If you're trying to move kids around, I'm
Yeah.
talking adult kids.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing experience, man, to actually have done that.
I think we're done with as far as questions, man. Is there anything that we probably didn't hit on that I didn't get to in the questions that we want to make sure that reaches the audience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, man, I would tell people is just develop. If you want to get in this industry, just do things that you can that can help towards getting to this industry. Get around it, become a PA. I would say become a PA. Work in the office. Try to make sure you work in the production office because you learn a lot working in the production office with logistics. So far as logistics is concerned, and it may be something as sending that mail. I don't care what you're doing, but you're doing something to understand how everything comes together. Just
Who
basically developing your key skills.
who should they talk to? So, say if they're a PA, production assistant, who's the person they talk to get into the office so they can see everything that's going on?
I would say go to work boards first. If you don't know a film that's going on, also go to the film commission's website. The film commissions usually tell you which projects are coming into your area as well. Find out who that production coordinator is. Reach out to them. That production coordinator may be able to, because we're always, anytime a production coordinator comes into an area, the production coordinator is talking to a production supervisor and a UPM right above them. So
Hmm.
if you can find out who those production coordinators are in town, just try to make sure you get their resume in front of them because they're going to be the ones that bump the resume up to the hiring managers, which is the UPM or line producer.
And also the reason I asked that question because I just had a conversation not too long ago with a vendor, and they basically just asked questions about how to get work. They're qualified in what they do, but the issue they were having is how do I find work? How do I find work? I got all the skills for this role. Who do I talk to?
Talk to people that's doing it, man. Every time I see somebody post something about a film that they're working on Facebook, I always reach out to that person afterwards. Say, hey, I really like your project. I want to get to know you more. That type of thing. Try to reach out to people that's actually doing the work because everybody's not going to go to Hollywood and do it, man. Hollywood is in your backyard sometimes.
Hmm. We have one question here. I don't know if we
Mhm.
touched on it, but from Prophet Mo, what is your favorite part of being at UPM?
I would say my favorite part of being a UPM is actually managing the process. Make sure that all departments, because you're dealing with all the department heads as well. Just make sure all departments have what they need to be successful in making the movie. And if you can be a UPM that stay within budget and work for that budget and still deliver and make sure everybody has the resources they need, I think you've been very successful at that point.
Rock and roll.
Okay.
We're here at an hour, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
your time, brother.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. Like I said, anytime, like I said, I'm available. So just let me know.
I appreciate that. Is there anything? What are some platforms people can reach you, and how do you prefer people to reach out to you?
Go to my management at Zero Gravity.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. Talk
Yeah.
about that, because
I,
people
yeah,
might not
I would
know that
say,
that's a possibility.
yeah, I have a management company that represents me. I'm rep by Zero Gravity BTL. You can
Mhm.
go to them and reach out to me that way, or just reach out to me via Instagram. Like I said, at the same time, if it's a project that I'm interested in working with, I'm gonna
Mhm.
make sure everybody's looped in anyway. So
Okay. Okay. So Instagram it is. Again, man, thank you so much for your time, especially on a Saturday, man. It's crazy.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm about to go out in a minute.
All right, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you, Doc. I'll talk to you later,
Okay.
man.
All right, y'all
Y'all
take it
take
easy.
care.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.